I'm Adam Canavo, Senior Consultant with Groove Management, and I'm here to share with you 3 ways that you can take your next team bonding activity and turn it into a real team building event. I know what you're saying to yourself, okay, wait a minute, team bonding, team building, what's the difference? Well, there is a big difference. Team bonding is really anything that you do that helps strengthen the relationships amongst the members of the team. So you could do anything from go out for a drink after work or just bringing in lunch and everybody taking a break to have a meal together. You know, those types of things definitely help to build relationships. And in a lot of organizations, leaders and managers want to reward a team for maybe good performance or some other milestone that they've achieved, and they want to get everybody out of the office and go have fun together. Well, that's team bonding all day long, and it's great. And I think that companies totally should do that. But if you really want to focus on a particular aspect of your team dynamics that you feel like needs improvement, maybe you want to work on the communication skills, or you want to figure out different ways that you guys could resolve conflict or achieve greater results more efficiently, then you have to have a focused effort. You have to take a look at each individual member of your team, figure out what their strengths are, what maybe some opportunities are, what their style is when it comes to communicating or resolving issues, and then how do those different styles and personalities interact with each other in this particular team that you've put together. And this is super important because we know that people quit teams, right? If you have a bad team and you don't feel like everyone's pulling their weight, or you don't feel like you can communicate with others or rely on them, you don't want to be a part of that team. And in a lot of situations where people find themselves on teams that aren't performing well or aren't communicating well, over a longer period of time, if possible, people will leave those teams. And unfortunately, small businesses don't have the luxury of allowing somebody to leave a team and switch and go to another team. So if you're in a smaller organization, if somebody's unhappy with the team that they're on and they're having difficulty communicating with others, eventually they're going to quit. And that's going to create a bigger problem for the whole organization. Something else that we know is that people love working on teams, and they like collaborating with others, and they like working together to achieve greater results. It's a proven thing. But in some work cultures, people have a hard time asking for help. It's just the way it is. And if you work on some communication skills, you can address those. And then something else, let's just face it. When things get awkward and you're not sure how to address conflict, or you've got an issue with a coworker, most people will just avoid that situation. Nobody likes having awkward conversations. Nobody likes having difficult conversations, and they sure don't want to take a chance in ruining a relationship with someone else at work and or not being able to accomplish as much as a team because they're afraid that those disagreements are going to get in the way of progress. Spoiler alert, taking your team out for drinks or doing a fun activity together isn't going to address these problems. Sure, these activities might break some tension that exists between team members, and everybody will go out and have a good time and have fun. But at the end of the day, you're not going to do the soul searching and introspection that's required to really understand yourself better, and to understand your coworkers better, and to understand how you all can work together better. And the sad truth is that in some of these situations, people will take the opportunity to look at these activities to reinforce negative preconceived notions that they have about their coworkers, which might be a cynical view, but it's true. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that you take everybody out of the office to go solve some puzzle somewhere and have a good time doing that, and it's designed to be team building. But again, the reality is it's team bonding, because you're just leaving the office and you're bringing all of the issues and concerns and frustrations that you have with maybe your coworkers, or some of the difficulty that you have communicating with them, and you're just taking it with you and bringing it into a new environment. So here's a scenario that can play out, and we've seen it before, where someone who takes charge at work, maybe it's a leader, it could be the manager of this team, and you go to some activity where you're, say, solving a puzzle, and they just talk over everybody, and they give directions, and people play along. Nobody's gonna argue with that individual. You know, the whole point is to have fun. At least that's what most people feel like, that we're getting out of the office, we just want to have a good time. And if somebody wants to take charge and railroad this whole thing towards the finish, no one's going to get in their way. But at the end of the day, people are going to be a little bit resentful, and they're going to be upset about it. And they're not going to share that with that person, and that person doesn't have an opportunity to grow, and people will just reinforce the negative stereotypes that they already had about that individual. So if you want to increase self-awareness, learn more about each other, and really improve the team dynamics, you're going to have to go about things a little bit differently. You can do the exact same team bonding activity that you were planning on doing. solving puzzles, going rafting, doing a low ropes course, whatever it is that you were going to do together, you can still do it for sure. But what I would say is, before you leave the office, here are 3 ways that you could really increase the impact of the event. Here's the first thing that you can do that would really make a big difference. You can still do the same activity you were going to do, but before you leave, sit down as a group and read an article that addresses a specific thing about management or leadership or teams. You could read a Harvard Business Review article about improving communication. Or if you've got the time and you're committed to it, you could read a whole book, like 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And then everyone can get together before you leave for maybe an hour and just talk about what you read and what you thought about it. Does it apply to us? Does it not apply to us? Are there certain things that really resonated with me as far as this team goes? Or there are things in here that I noticed about a previous team that I worked on. There are a lot of different ways that people can share their perspectives and increase the awareness of the team to maybe issues that not everybody was paying attention to. And when you go into the activity, now you're going to have a different frame of mind and you're going to get a lot more out of it. I would also say, after the activity is over, have a debriefing session and say, hey, what did you think about what we just did? Anything that we talked about this morning come up while we were actually over there solving our puzzles? So that value add is pretty much free. The second way that you can add value to these team bonding activities and make them more of a team building activity is to take an assessment before you leave. We call them assessments. You might call them personality tests. But you want to get one that's scientifically validated. You can go online and find dozens and dozens of personality tests, but they're not necessarily designed specifically to help business groups improve team dynamics. Others are. And sometimes the ones that are cost a few dollars. I mean, you can find great tests online that are, $20, $30, $50, all the way up to probably thousands of dollars. But for a small investment in just one of these options, you can get some great results and initiate some great dialogue. There are several out there that give you ideas, not just about your own communication style, but others and how you interact with people. And sometimes there's additional features in here that describe how you act differently under stress or when you've got a deadline. And it can be really valuable for people to share that with each other and have a discussion about. I assure you, you're going to perform a lot better on those puzzles after you've had conversations about things like this, especially if the puzzles require some intense communication and teamwork. Last but not least, the third way that you can add value to a team bonding activity to turn it into a team building activity is to get some outside help. Go over, talk to somebody in another department. Maybe your HR department could come in and help you have a discussion about team dynamics or improving communication or getting through some difficult challenges. There's probably lots of people in your business right now that have expertise in these things. And again, just getting a primer on that and having some open dialogue and maybe having a facilitated discussion about the pros and cons of what's going on in your team right now will dramatically have a positive impact going into any of those team bonding activities. And of course, if you don't have anybody internally that can help you do that, there are lots of organizations out there that can help support you. I mean, that's one of the things that Groove Management does. We are hired all the time to help clients do exactly this. And we put together great packages that include all of the above. We'll do an assessment in the morning, have a great dialogue. We may do a presentation and talk about some specific things and do some educational materials. And then you go out and you have fun. And you go out and you do the activity that you want to do. You do a low ropes course, you do rafting, you do puzzle solving, escape rooms, whatever it might be. We do some really crazy things where we try to find activities where nobody has any experience with it. Because if you go somewhere that everyone's out of their element, it's an opportunity for everyone to learn and nobody has an advantage. So it's kind of fun. Our sister company takes people out surfing, but we'll do ice curling. We've built skateboards. We've done all sorts of things that really get people out of their element and force them to work together, collaborate, and communicate. And then at the end, we all have a good time talking about what did we learn, what didn't we learn, how did what we talk about in the morning make a difference in going into the activity, and then what do you think about it now that we've done it. So no matter what you do, people are always going to have fun on these activities, and getting out of the office is great, but you want the impact to last longer than an afternoon. And if you add some of these elements that I'm talking about here, you bring in somebody to help you reinforce it, it has a much bigger impact and a much longer impact than just that afternoon. You'll reap the benefits of team building activities for years, whereas team bonding activities are pretty much over when they're over.